Sound.
As the rolling sea.
I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.
Let us march on.
Till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're going to take you to church right now. Let's go.
We'll keep marching right until the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till that day comes.
Hey.
Let us march on.
To victory.
Till victory is won. Is won.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to our Black History Month Empowerment Series, week number 2 here at Second Baptist Church, a House of Hope. My name is Pastor Todd Johnson, and welcome so much for you who are joining us online and all of you who are coming in and joining in person. Good to see you. You can say hello. Hi. How y'all doing? Okay, this is a pretty casual discussion, and we're so grateful that you have joined us, those that are coming in and will come in, and those that will be watching online. If you're watching online, do me a great big favor, and I want you to hit the like button, the share button, tag somebody who needs to be included in this discussion, somebody who would need this information, even if they don't think they need this information. I want you to do your very best to share it. So if you're watching it, matter of fact, I'm going to share it again on my page and on my Reverend Todd Johnson official councilman page. I'm going to share it all over so that everybody can know that we are live and that this is a critical conversation for our community. A little bit about why we're here and how this was conceived. I got a little vision. Every year I try to do something special for Black History Month. It's really near and dear to my heart that we do important things that not only honor our history but uplift our community. And so this year, we're doing what we call the Empowerment Series. Last week, we had a dynamic panel of 3 wonderful, educated, intelligent young ladies who talked to us about special education and special needs and learning barriers for our children, particularly children of color, because that is an incredible barrier in our community to our children's success, and many of our parents and grandparents and caretakers don't know how to get that information and maintain that information and pursue the resources and tools that their children can use to be successful. So if you haven't seen that yet, go to our Facebook page, Second Baptist Warren, or Second Baptist Church, a House of Hope on Facebook, or on YouTube at SBC Warren, and you can watch that full panel from last Saturday. And I want to thank Leah Dotson, Andrea Hudson, and Terry West for being a part of that. This week, as a part of our empowerment session for this series, we're discussing life insurance. And just to give you a preview, next week, we'll be discussing next generation employment with a representative from local skilled trades and Altium Cells, the new battery plant in Lordstown, Ohio. So today, we're talking life insurance. And if you are tuned in, I want you to say hello, say hey. I can see your comments. London will put the comments up so that I can see them. And you can just pop up if you see them under the comments tab, Lundy. And y'all give my daughter a hand. She's the best technician, video technician in the world. If something goes wrong, it's not her fault. So just telling you now. But if you're tuning in and tapping in, would you please say hey, hi, how you doing, and make sure you like and share. And if you hear something, how you doing, Brother Hughley? And if you hear something that is a blessing to you or helpful to you or something you never knew before, make sure you share or tag or hit the likes and the hearts. You know how you do when you watch videos you like. Hit the likes and the hearts and let us know that you're getting good information here. Well, we have two wonderful panelists here, two wonderful people who hail right here from the Warren area and serve the Warren area as life insurance agents. And then I have a special guest who will join us virtually from out of state, but she is a member of Second Baptist Church, because we have e-members now. You know, we have virtual members. It's the new age. So we have e-members. And Sister Karen will be with us. But I have the illustrious Mr. Herb Caldwell, and I have Mrs. Marquita Lyles, and they are both life insurance specialists. And she's around my age. We're in the same generation. Mr. Caldwell he's seasoned. He's seasoned, but I wanted that perspective for the young and the old. Brother Caldwell has so much knowledge of our history and what has happened over the years with insurance. And Sister Caldwell, I'm gonna call you sister. I'm a church man. I'm a pastor, y'all. Y'all gonna be sisters and brothers today. And Sister Lyles, will be talking from that younger perspective, younger families especially, and the products that are available to us. And they're both gonna give us a lot of knowledge. So, again, like, share, tag, you know what to do. I'm gonna ask Marquita if you would tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the practice and things you've learned along the way. Just a brief synopsis about yourself.
Well, again, my name is Marquita Lyles. I'm the owner of Marquita Lyles Insurance Agency, and I have been in the insurance business since 2005. In 2008, I decided that it would be a good idea for me to open up my own insurance agency. So I am licensed in property and casualty. I can sell auto, home, life, and business. I'm married, have a family, and I just want to thank you, Pastor Todd, for inviting me to be a part of Black History Month.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yeah, my name is Herbert Caldwell. I have been licensed since 1972. I'm a licensed real estate agent now. I'm also a notary public. I went back to Youngstown State at age 56 and became a paralegal. And I found out that all these things do connect to what we want to say here today. I think that's it.
Leave it there. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Listen, I can use it tomorrow if you want to preach. You can have 8 a.m. We got to be blunt. And I was asked last week, one of my panelists was like, well, can I say this? And I said, you absolutely can, because the church is a place where you tell the truth. We have a problem with the lack of life insurance in the Black community. It is an incredible, not only strain upon families that find themselves in what we feel is the unthinkable or surprise situation of losing a loved one, especially if they're a little younger, but it's also a strain upon the families, the organizations, the churches, and the overall wealth of the community when you are constantly playing catch up every time a traumatic event happens. We've all said that there are two certainties in life: death and taxes. Okay, and in the church, obviously as a pastor, I do plenty of eulogies. I am baffled sometimes why we would not pay more attention to the one thing that is certain to happen to everybody, and that is death. Until the Lord comes back, we are going to continue to experience death. And we say it all the time: death has no age, and death doesn't care how young or vibrant you are, or whether you are a person out doing violent things, or whether you're a peaceful person doing all the right things. It is inevitable, and as unthinkable as that might be, and we don't like to think about it, we can't help but deal with it because it keeps happening. And one of my pleas as a pastor, a community member, a Black man, is that we would think more critically about this reality of death and not pretend that it can't happen to me, because every single person who says it can't happen to me, it happens to them or their family. Not only that, but we rob ourselves, and we'll talk about this more, of opportunities for security for our families and even wealth building that sets us back. Every time a new generation starts, we start over again from scratch because we've left nothing to our families to deal with. And we have to be honest and spread the word, and this is the preaching point before I start asking questions, that we have to hold each other accountable within our community, asking our loved ones, our family members, our young people. When I got married, I was only 23 years old when I got married, and my father said, you need to get your own life insurance. I worked at a bank. I didn't have an excuse, and I took out 2 policies on myself, and as each child was born, he made sure I got a rider on each child. And that's the worst thing to have to say when you're having a newborn baby and celebrating life is you need to make sure they're insured too, because something could happen to them. And now I'm 16 years married, I'm pushing 40, and even some of those term, I took out term at that time, they're coming due, or one of them did go due. I've got to rethink my whole life plan, how the rest of my life is going to work out. And I am responsible for that. And I must make sure that those around me are responsible. I've said in my church, I don't want one individual in our church who is not insured. I don't want one individual in our church who is not insured. However, we have to make a way to do that, and then start checking your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews. I hate to say it like this, but it's a truth place. That one that's living the most dangerous probably needs to have it first. Talking to y'all on camera. That one that ain't coming home at night, and you praying for them to come and do the right thing, you need to make sure that they are at least covered so that you are not extraordinarily burdened if, heaven forbid, anything happened to any of our young people or our children or anybody else. So I just wanted to say that we're having this conversation because there's a great need, an incredible need. We should not be having to sell chicken dinners and do GoFundMes and all these things to bury our loved ones. We should be ready. And if we haven't learned from other experiences, then I kind of don't know what will teach us. So some of us have been through that. Some of us have yet to, but we've seen others go through it. And so I just want to start off by asking, and this is just my own question, what have you seen as pushback against buying life insurance and getting the insurance that people need? What are some of the things that people are saying and that you hear as issues why they do not get it? And make sure you use your mic where the call works if you're going to answer.
I specifically made notes on that particular question. And it says, what are the 5 insurance myths that leave black Americans behind? The first one is it's only final expense. That means they think that it's just, to bury you. I'm not trying to make anyone rich. Anyone heard that one? I have enough life insurance through my job. When you lose that job or you leave that job, you no longer have insurance. And if you can't qualify, then you're just out of luck. I'll be dead. Why should I care? And then $1 million in coverage is too much. Those are some of the things over the years that I have found some of our people would say. And they say it out of ignorance. And that was one of the reasons that I told Pastor Todd that I wanted to be on this panel. If you go back to the early 1800s when we were first emancipated, North Carolina Mutual was the first life insurance company that we had. I was privileged to go down there a couple years ago on a bus tour. Our people who were slaves put their pennies together because they were not allowed to be insured by the predominant life insurance companies. We started our own. So the reason I bring that up is just to let us, that we have to learn our history. It might make a difference, it might not, but I think that when you don't know, that's where the problem is right there. These questions are.
Well, as for me, what I've noticed is people don't believe that they can actually afford life insurance. Again, as Mr. Caldwell said, they don't feel the urgency or the need at the time because it's like, I'm gonna be dead. I don't need it. I don't personally care. But it's like, in my opinion, not having life insurance is probably the most selfish decision that you could make. It's inevitable we're all going to die at some point, and you do not want to leave the burden to your family. For one, they have to deal with the grieving process. You don't want your kids trying to create a GoFundMe for you. You don't want your kids to get into it because they don't know where the money is going to come from. So to me, they're just all excuses. And as far as, like a lot of people believe that their kids are too young. My kids are young. I don't want to put life insurance on my kids. Well, you want to insure your kids' insurability. Have you heard?
Yes. Let me say this.
Yeah, stick with that.
I brought these facts. For a child, 14 days to 17 years old, you can get a policy for them for $4 a month. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you a little story about some people that you might know. I think all of us have heard of Master P. Master P was a DJ. His family left him a $10,000 policy. This proves that insurance is not just for the deceased, it's for the living. We have to get that in our heads also. She left him a $10,000 policy. Master P started his own business because the banks would not lend him anything. Master P is worth $250 million to this point. If we could get that idea into our kids' minds or into our heads, they're even allowing grandparents to now to insure their kids, grandkids. So that's what I mean. It's just like what got me was I saw the lady, again, I have to keep talking about this because it hurt me, on TV 2 weeks ago. Her son had been killed in Youngstown. He's 14 years old. She was on TV asking for help. And I know the lady. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I'm going to be honest about it. It's okay, Pastor? When I saw $400 worth of braids in her hair. Now, you see what I'm getting at? I've been around a long time, I'm sorry. Or $500 rims on your car. You can't say that. We have to sit down and consult with people and let them know what they're doing, because I don't believe that they would hurt themselves on purpose, Pastor. They just don't know.
About ensuring the children's insurability. I don't know what that means. So tell me what that means, because parents like me need to know that.
Yes. Well, I don't like to throw out what in the atmosphere what can happen. But Pastor Todd, cancer can happen. Illnesses can happen. COVID can happen. Once a person is actually like really sick, cancer, that's when I get the knocks on my door. Is when it's at a point where I can't cover you, and it breaks my heart because I want to cover everyone. But that's where ensuring your insurability comes from, because you don't know down the line what health issues may come up. And I've seen it, like, in all the years of dealing with insurance. That's probably one of the things that breaks my heart, is when I can't cover someone.
So once they are insured, they can continue to be insured as long as they had been initially insured.
Yep.
Understood.
And there's another angle to this too. All of our parents, or older parents, they would have these policies. A guy would come around and he would, collect or whatever. We have policies in our possession now. Most of our people don't understand that it's virtually impossible to lapse a policy after you've paid on it for so long.
Yeah.
I did this personally right over here in the Highland Terrace. Went to a lady's house. We gathered up all of her policies. She had quit paying on them for years. She thought that they were no good. We found $3,000. Now, see, the insurance company is not obligated to tell you anything.
Yeah.
You see? And as long as you have those numbers.
Repeat that again. The insurance company
is not obligated to tell you anything.
That's the importance of having an agent.
There you go. There you go, sis. There you go. And so I'm speaking from experiences that I've actually had over the years. And some of us right now are insured and we don't know it. You see? So at one time, maybe we'll sit down and you come in and I'll read the policies to you, the non-forfeiture values that they've set up, the government has set up. For some people that are sick right now, we have guaranteed issues that you can be insured right now with a 2-year buy-down. No questions. And please, don't buy anything from JJ.
Make it plain. He is giving his trial sermon today.
They put a clown up in front of us in place of serious people.
This is a truth telling house. And Minister Caldwell is giving his trial sermon right now. Don't give your money to Dynamite. Don't give it to Mr. Dynamite.
It's an insult to us, actually, for them to put someone like a clown to sell us insurance. It's such an important matter. It's just no good. I was telling the pastor, I said, sometimes things come out. You know what I mean? So
that's all right.
Forgive me if I little overbearing.
I'm going to do a lot of editing later. Do a lot of clipping on this show. Okay, this is great. And I'm appreciating this. And by the way, if you have questions in the house or online and you're watching us, you can ask those questions. Now, if you got this on a shared video, we might not see it, so come to the Second Baptist page and click on our video at Second Baptist Church, a House of Hope, and type your question, and Lundy will pop it up for us to see, and we'll be able to answer your question. Now, since you said life insurance is not just for the deceased, but it's also for the living, and you talked a little bit about that, but let's unpack, because you sent me 5 things, Mr. Caldwell, and I'd like you to talk about those 5 things that thinking about life insurance as more than just burial insurance. And there is burial insurance, and it is necessary and needed. You might need that. But how can life insurance be for more than just burial and final arrangements? Mr. Caldwell.
Well, we found out that most people in our community, we don't particularly want to leave a legacy. The second thing is a life insurance policy can actually generate income over time for your retirement if it's large enough. It can do that. Now, what we did a few years ago, I sold insurance. It was for buy term and invest the difference. We got a large amount of insurance, but people didn't invest the difference. And after the 20th year, they were in trouble. Yep. And this for tax deferments. You can even, insurance proceeds are tax deferred. You can relieve your beneficiaries of debt after you're gone. We know that. And leave your survivors the ability to start a business, go to college, or do just about anything. And we're able to do that.
And thank you for those points. And starting at the beginning with leaving a legacy. And we're being very blunt this Black History Month, y'all. A lot of the things we don't have is because of what has not been left. A lot of the things that we don't have is because of what has not been left. Now, there are some things that have been left and have not been well taken care of. We have had houses passed down to families. They leave the house to the younger generation. They don't take care of it, property. They don't pay taxes on, things like that. But our peers, whether it's business, as you mentioned, including our houses of worship, our nonprofit organizations, there are many people in other communities, other cultures, ethnicities, they leave behind not only to their family, but they designate chunks to the parish they attended, the church they went to, the nonprofit they were a part of will get a piece of that legacy. And that actually allows those organizations to live beyond what usually was probably an active member or participant in that, and allow them to keep the vibrancy of what they're doing. Now, I know what people are thinking. Preacher wants everybody to leave a few dollars to the church. And, of course, we love for that, but understand what he's saying. It is legacy. If you really do want something to live beyond you and be as strong for the next generation as it was for you, you have to not only participate while you're alive, but leave something for after you're gone. Because there's a loss of income for everybody, the family. And let's just be honest, if I got a real good member who's been faithful in giving and they're gone, and that support to help us reach our community or touch people's lives, they're gone. And so they might be able to leave a gift. And again, it doesn't just have to be church. I'm never selfish like that. It could be whatever you care about that you want to see continue. If you think about that, it could be the food drive you were a part of and you were always donating to Angels for Animals or whatever you love to do. If you wanted to keep that going, you can do that, and it leaves a legacy. You might even say, yeah, put my name on the wall. Some of these folks wonder why we got these names. Somebody probably left a check for something, and they name it up on a pew or a statue or a plaque or something so that you are remembered as a contributor. Going to generating that income over time for retirement. That there's more than one way to retire than just through a 401k or other plans, that you can actually take some control. And you mentioned people who don't put the part that they're supposed to put in. Say that again so we can understand what you were talking about.
What happens is a life insurance policy consists of two components: whole life, a savings component, and a term insurance component. When you put them together, then you have whole life. We separated those, and because term insurance was cheaper, you were able to buy $100,000, $200,000. But we told them for 20 years, put that extra $25 a month away. At the end of the 25 years, at 10% interest at the time it was, compound interest too. Yeah.
Are you talking about an annuity?
It could be an annuity, but when we were doing it, it was they had what they called a side savings fund. Insurance companies would allow you to put the money there to make sure that you, at the end of the term, you would have something. But we didn't do that. Some of us, right now there are people that I know, those policies are coming due. And they're going to triple, and the premium's going to triple just because of that. Now, you have to be able to go and get what you call it should be able to transfer over to a whole life policy. Conversion, yeah, without evidence of insurability. That means you do not have to take a physical. And this is what I'm really trying to barrel home. We think that we can't have these things or we can't do these things, but we can. They're readily available to us now, but no one tells us.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Marquita, would you add anything to those benefits for the living, for the generation coming behind or the children, or how that insurance actually benefits what goes forward?
Well, as far as the children, there could be educational benefits. You can use the funds to send your kids to school, to create a business. I'm big on that. But as far as the kids, you can use it as an educational fund.
Awesome. Thank you. So here's a question we get a lot, and I'm sure it'll be asked, so I'll ask it now. What type of life insurance should I have? Because people, I think, that ignorance you talked about, and we mean that in a pure way. We're not saying you're an idiot or something, but you just don't have the knowledge. But they can be overwhelmed by products that are offered to them. We all have a habit. We all do it. We walk into an office, or maybe that banker says, would you like an appointment with our investment person or our insurance person? And we don't want to feel dumb, so we nod our heads at what they're saying, even if we really don't understand it. And then we walk out not knowing what to choose or even what we purchased. So what should the average person, I'll start with Marquita, what blend or types of life insurance should a person encounter? Maybe if you need to split it up by life situation, go ahead and do that by category.
It's basically, I have a needs analysis that I go by. You have to talk to each individual client and find out what do they want their life insurance for. Is it to pay for a funeral, which is a final expense policy? Are they looking to leave money to their kids, to their family, to the church? If you have a business, is this a key employee life insurance policy? It just basically depends on the needs of the client. It depends on the age of the client as well. Like a client basically my age, I would push a term insurance policy. I like to sell insurance in bulk. I want to make sure that their kids, their family is actually well taken care of. If they have a spouse, if you have a mortgage, like those things, I take everything into consideration. Now, if it is a person, an older person, for example, who has a term insurance policy that's coming due, and when that policy comes due, well, I'm just going to throw a number out there. Let's say that they are paying $50 a month for maybe a $150 policy. So that $150,000 policy has an expiration date on it. And the expiration date does not mean that your policy is going to end. What it means is that they're going to continue your policy, but they're going to charge you a higher rate. So they're going to rate you based upon your age at the end of the term. Am I correct?
So it's an existing policy that goes on, but you are converted over, as he said, it could be triple as much based on your age now. But that money's still there for you under the term. You're just not under the terms of your original payment. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that policy, that $50 policy that you may be paying that policy, the $50 that you are paying now, when it reaches the end of the term, it could possibly be $200. So if you can't afford that, you need to look at different options that you may have. One, converting some of that over to a whole life policy. Yes? Yeah. No.
So the
No.
question was, if you didn't hear at home, he said when it doubles or triples or quadruples and you stop paying or you're not able to pay, are you still insured? And the answer is no.
No.
So once you stop paying that premium that on that policy,
Yes.
that can break your
Yes.
insurance coverage.
And that's why it is so imperative for you to pay close attention to your life insurance policy. A lot of people don't have agents that they can call because they purchased the policy so long ago. The company actually owns the policy. So you don't, if you don't have an agent, you really don't know what to do. So it is important to contact your local agents, have them take a look at your policy and explain to you what type of policy do I have. And don't wait to the end of the term. If you have a policy that's going to come up in 5 years, go and speak to an agent and ask them, what are my options? What can I do?
Thank you. Mr. Caldwell, you'd like to add to that?
Yes. Let me put it this way first. You have to remember one thing in the beginning. You're black. Now, don't everybody jump up and run out of here.
No, I like that.
Because I told you that. Because the situations are different for us. This is the reason I want to consult. I like to sit down. I like to talk to people about some of the things that she said. Now, I recommend a blend of whole life and term.
Yes.
Because you never know what's going to happen to you. Now, for instance, let's say you had a 20-year term. At the end of that 20-year term, we talked about, if the insurance company allows you, you can have what they call, you can transfer it to a whole life policy without evidence of insurability. That means you don't have to take physicals or whatnot. But it's going to be for a lower amount, you see. So what I suggest is if you can, you start off with a whole life policy and a term policy. Buy as much term as you can, and because it's inexpensive. But if anything happens to that, you're always protected the rest of your life with that whole life. Yes, ma'am.
We have a question in the house. Go ahead, and I'll repeat it. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen one
let
of
me
those
repeat-
policies in a long time.
Let me repeat for people at home because they can't hear what she said.
Okay.
No, that's good. I just want to have a chance to repeat before you guys respond. She wanted to know the difference between term and whole policies, and that she has had experience with decreasing term policies, and so our agents are knowledgeable about that.
Oh, yeah.
So go ahead and speak on that.
Well, see, I should say back in the day, here I come with my history again. Those policies were originally called mortgage insurance. You see? Yeah. And see, and what they were meant to do was as your mortgage went down, the insurance went down, and it was supposed to coincide when your mortgage is paid for, it was gone. Some smart
A lot of agents continue to sell them.
Yeah, but you can't. I think that then they came up with the 20-year level, which is just as easy. That way it's not going down. Or a 30-year level. If you're going to buy a term, buy the 30-year, 10, 20-year level. And the decreasing term, stay away from it. Because every year the price goes up.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
In whole life insurance, that's what we like to call permanent insurance. So with your whole life, you have a face value. Let's say at that time you decided to get a $25,000 whole life, and your payment, I'm just going to throw a number in the air, $30 a month. It will not change. Your payment will not change. So you will pay $30 until you pass away. And I don't want to veer off into other policies, but there are specific whole life policies where you can pay on them for 20 years and then it's actually paid in full. So you may have some people may have a policy that doesn't require additional payments.
Most of us, those are the policies I spoke of. that people actually have money sitting in their homes that's paid up. Yes. Sometimes they're paid up after you pay on it 5 years, sometimes 10 years, 12 years. That policy is paid for. You don't have to pay anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I mean, this is great information. I mean, I'm learning what I should have known 20 years ago, but I appreciate it, and thank you. We did have a comment. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. No cash value. So we have a question on the floor for those at home. He was asking about whole life policies having a cash value, and we'll talk what that means and what you can do with that cash value if you would enlighten us. And that term life is really just for coverage of an event if something were to occur. Is that making sense? I don't want to say it wrong. Could you talk about that cash value situation, one of you? What does that mean when we say whole life has cash value, and how and when does it have, or could it have cash value?
Well, the insurance companies, in their infinite wisdom back when they first started to doing it, creating these insurance policies, they split up the coverage with cash. They put them together. That's how it actually started. Now you can take the cash, for instance. Let's say that you're getting kicked out of your house. You don't have the rent. You have that money there. Or if you need a new car, you need a down payment, you can do that. You take that out, but your benefit is going to be reduced by the amount that you've borrowed, as they call it. The thing to do is to put $10, $15 more onto that and pay it back.
My recommendation is that you do not borrow from your life insurance policy. Please don't borrow from your life insurance policy.
You got to remember who we're talking to now.
This is the house of truth today. Is there ever a scenario where there's an absolute necessity or a meaning to do that? I mean, you said is there ever a place, and again, Brother Caldwell's he's been around 50 years. We know our people.
Yeah, that's
so
what I'm saying.
Is there ever a reason why somebody might find it beneficial, but besides being Master P and starting a $250 million business?
There could be if it's going to, the investment that you use it for is going to work out. Everybody takes chances.
But we don't know.
No, you don't know.
Would be
best not to do it.
Okay.
I had an experience at the court. I worked with the Veterans Court, Judge Frederica's Veterans Court, and I saw something, and this is another reason I'm sitting here. The bail bondsman, this guy he's in trouble. His mother borrows off of the insurance policy for his bail.
Wow.
She's in a wheelchair, you see? Everybody says, but I'm speaking for the truth because these are situations that we know happen. It's not act like we don't know it happens. It does.
Your answer to the borrowing off of the whole, you said, please don't do it.
Don't do it.
We can take it.
Unless it's absolutely necessary.
So don't just look at it as some pocket of money you could dip into like a savings account or something that it got to be dire and perhaps not bail.
Lord.
I mean, but we don't want to get to those places. And because you are threatening your future and what should be there for you. So I've been holding our virtual guest for quite a while, and I want to give her a chance to talk and speak to us. We have Karen Jackson with us in London. Is she still there and able to come in and unmuted? Okay, we're going to bring Karen in, and she's going to share with us her experience. She's had 2 tragedies in her life. And first of all, I want to commend Karen because she's an incredibly strong woman of faith with everything that she has been through, with a son and a daughter she has lost. But she is also a businesswoman and has persevered not only in life, but in moving forward and sharing her skills and knowledge as a life insurance agent. So if you could bring Karen in, if she's able to come in, just want to meet. You never know if we have a problem. There we go. Karen is there. Are you there, Karen?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. And there might be a slight delay. And honestly, if there's a slight delay on our end, it's because of this TV network in here. It's probably not at home. But just answer as you hear. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience, Karen, and just share with us some things that you've gone through and some things that you have learned and heard from the discussion so far?
Yes, sir. I I'm pretty sure everyone, because I did bring both of my children back home. Well, my son was there when he got killed. That in 2013, my daughter got in a car accident here in Gastonia, North Carolina, and I just want to tell people how devastating it is to be a mother and your child is gone and you don't know how you're going to bury her. You don't know how you're going to get her home. But God is awesome, and he helped me with that. But it took 2 or 3 days before her job came back, and they even opened up a thing for the whole job, a benefit that now they're uninsured. They have something that they will donate, but they paid for her whole funeral. I was blessed, but I never forget that feeling of not knowing how I was going to bury my baby. And 6 years, 8 years later, I lose my son. And if I had not sought out different insurances, my son had did 6 years in prison. It's very hard. They make it where we as a people, because they look at us, that we can insure. But I sought out because I have family there in Warren, that they have children that are very sick. They couldn't insure them, would nobody accept them. But I made sure I got insurance. I had covered my son, my family there that had the baby, she's covered, so there's never a time that you cannot cover someone. This company even will cover someone in prison, but they tell us, oh no, they can't cover. They can't be covered because of this or that. But I'm gonna tell you, when my son passed, yes, it devastated me, but it was a peace that I knew he was covered. I didn't have to worry about anything. Matter of fact, I even had another card where I told the funeral home, your caskets are awesome, I love them, but I can get that same casket $1,500 less. So I paid for the casket online and had it shipped to the funeral home. I mean, there's ways you have to open yourself up and look into things, because they're not going to tell us. And that's why I'm an insurance agent. I'm going to make sure my people and anybody I know has all the resources. And to touch on some of the bases they were saying, as far as term life, I have nieces, nephews, a grandchild. I tell them, don't look at it as a life insurance that it's only for you to die. I'm a single woman. I don't have a lot of money. But what I did was I bought $50,000 on my grandchild. I put that, it's called return of premium. When you can take it out for 15, 20, or 30 years. She don't have to use it at all. But in that 30-year period, that's what I set it up for. Every penny that was paid into that insurance policy, she could take it out as a lump sum. There's a start right there. That's some grandma left that I couldn't have left out of my bank account. But I left her, I think hers would be worth $20,000. She'll get that $20,000, or she could say, flip it over. I'll have that for, she'll never have to pay for insurance again. So you'll have either keep it for insurance, or take that lump sum payment. Because at that time, she's 21, in 30 years, she'll be 50. She'll probably have her own life insurance. Take that full check. That's all. And then she'll get like $18,000, $20,000 in cash. It's always a way to leave. It's always different paths to take. So we have to, we have to really dig into what we're doing. We as a people, they're not going to tell us anything. If we don't have someone, insurance agents like the ones you have up front, or myself, that's going to tell you what you need and don't let you just spend your money and throwing it away. It's always a way to have an investment. It don't always have to be just for debt. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead. You had something else? Go ahead.
No, I was just looking at some of the things I was writing down while they were talking, about what they were saying. And I was like saying with the return of premium, and then the legacy of me, myself I put only $30,000 on myself, because at the time I had 3 children. Well, now I have 1. And like I told her, look, don't worry about putting a lot of money into the ground. I'm leaving you what I can.
Say that. Say that. Say that. And let's be that clear.
That's a whole nother topic.
Listen. Thank you for bringing that up, Sister Karen, because
yes, sir.
I don't despise anyone who wants to honor their loved one to the best that they had love for them and care about them. But it's no use in taking out this entire policy and burying it all at Oakwood or Pineview to impress folk that don't even halfway like you or know your mama.
Yeah, I got to say
And they just came to see who was going to sing I Won't Complain, and you didn't spend $50,000 on a casket and stuff. And I'm not saying throw them in the box in the backyard, but we got to be wise because they're leaving that for you to live and have a future with. Go ahead, Brother Caldwell.
Here I go again. So anybody don't want to hear this, put your fingers over your ears. But there's a I forgot to bring it with me, but I want to give to each and every one of you that, and also a booklet. I'll talk about that later. But in the state of Ohio, there are fees, rules on how much a funeral director can charge you and cannot charge you. See, we don't know that. And you see, when you get into that, it starts to get a little dicey there. But I'm saying that I'm trying to put this in the best way I can. When and there's a death in your family, do not take the policy directly to the funeral director.
Amen.
Do not do that. You settle your business. I have a little book here. I'll leave my card, and anybody that wants one, I'll leave them at the church, pastor, if you can. And you have to be able. You need to understand that. That is yours. You paid for that. That is for your family. I'm not saying that people will take advantage of it. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying this is something that was handed down to us. It's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. We have not gotten over it.
Say it.
And so we might as well just deal with it. When we have that money, the first thing we do, we take it to the director. He says, no. You figure out what you want. Don't tell him how much your policy is worth. It's none of his business. And then you go and have the ceremony for your loved one that you want.
And I want to piggyback off of that, again, using wisdom. And people have mentioned, and we will have to bring in some lawyers next time, and we want to do a part 2 and talk about living wills, funeral planning, power of attorneys, medical power of attorneys, and what those things mean. Because obviously, as a pastor, I worked at a bank for years, and I can tell this story because nobody knows the people I'm talking about. Y'all got to stop telling stories about people we know about. But I was at a bank in another city, and I literally watched a family member drag an old man who was on his walking deathbed and did not know where he was or what he was doing. And basically the family was feuding over this person that was getting ready to die and trying to submit different types of paperwork. You know, he signed this. 3 hours later, somebody else walking in dragging him. And he signed this and all that. We need to have our business straight. And back to what you said, even about funeral homes or other services that are surrounding, you still need to treat final arrangements and other investments like any other commercial enterprise where your endeavor is to at least be knowledgeable about what you are purchasing or acquiring, what it costs, because you are in a traumatic space, and those 3 or 4 days we give you to do a funeral, black folk 2 weeks, we give you to put this funeral together.
Yeah.
But it's a traumatic time and you're not thinking straight, and that's why you should think early, because any business person anywhere will charge you as much as you're willing to pay. And if you walk on the car lot and say, I got $30,000, they're going to find you a car that's $31,000 and tell you to go get $1,000 more and you can have this car and it's a steal. And so we're not bashing the funeral homes like you said. I know you're not. But they're business people too. And if you walk in saying, here's what I got, they're going to say, I had a guy, a contractor once, and somebody messed up and told him how much money we needed for a project, and his bid was $5 lower than how much money we had for the project, instead of us being able to bid on our own terms. And I know it's hard, because as a pastor, and by the way, have an insurance agent, talk to your pastor, or talk to somebody who is level-headed, who knows how to walk you through, and let me back up. Don't just talk to your pastor because you got a pastor. Please make sure they know what they're talking about.
Say that.
Okay, please. And because I know what it's like to be in that emergency room and the nurse is coming in and the person has passed and what do you want to do and that person doesn't know what to do. You need level-headedness around you. You know that family member that knows what to do. Keep them around, a friend, so that they can help you make those decisions, because you might be regretting having all that in life insurance, as we said, and then wasting it, and then you're mad at the director, or you're mad at this one, or you're mad at the doctor, you're mad at whatever, because you didn't make preparations to be in control.
Now, there's another component to life insurance that they've just started, whereas if you have a policy, let's say it's a $100,000 policy, and your doctor says you have maybe 12 months to live, or whatever, they'll give you that money to live off of. We don't have to go to the nursing homes and all that for the first 12 months.
Bring Karen back in with the panelists, and I want you guys to talk about that. Talk about that, and just you guys, split screen. Keep talking about that, Marquita, and then Karen.
How you doing?
Go ahead, Marquita. Marquita, add on to what he just said, and then Karen, pop into that.
Okay. Now, and I thank you for bringing that up because I totally forgot about that portion of it. If you are terminally ill, you can contact your insurance agent or the insurance company directly to let them know exactly what's going on, and you can receive a percentage of your policy to help out with medical bills or for you to do exactly what you want to do with that money. Did you want to add on to anything?
No, I think you said it all. It's called the living benefit, and they make sure you set aside enough to bury yourself. But hey, if I'm only gonna live another 5 years, I'm off to Hawaii. I'm off to the Caribbean. You can do whatever you want. I mean, and you have that money built up in there. And I wanted to say, Pastor, also about when I said about the casket, I bought my own. I wanted to let people know you could go online, and it's called Legacy. It's a legacy, and it's $4 a month. And you could tell them when someone passes, like, I don't want to do, tell them everything you want. It's your funeral, how you want it done if it was for myself, and they will deal with the funeral home. Your family cannot. They're going to put that funeral home on halt. They're not going to give them only but what they are allowed, and not going to let them charge you a penny extra.
Yes, ma'am. And there's one other thing. Yes. A few months ago, we had I had the probate court judge come down. I should have talked to Pastor Todd first, but I didn't. I had two ministers that were supposed to help me get the word out. The judge brought his whole presentation out, and he with his staff, and he gave a talk on probate. I hope you'll let us do that, Frederica. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And see, when he got through, him being a lawyer, he actually told us how, in some instances, you don't have to sell your house when you're in when your loved one is in a nursing home or whatnot. They have so many different secrets, not secrets, but different things we just don't know. And all of it comes back to insurance. Wow. Yes, ma'am. Just us.
Wow.
Right. They're secrets to us. They know about it. They don't inform us. And that's why we need to let our people know, give them all the information that they need. Because sometimes it's not just because they have their mentalities. It's because they're not told. Like you said, back in the day, they will go through our neighborhoods and sell them a penny. Then you go to sell your someone passes, and you don't have enough to bury your loved one. I've seen policies, they only worth $500. What was you going to do with that anyway? Yeah. And you done paid your whole life for $500.
I saw one young lady, and you may think that I'm not telling the truth. Back when I first started, it was with one of the first industrial policies. Yes. You had to be killed on the Brooklyn Bridge before they would pay it. See? And I have that. I'll bring it, let you see it. I know. No. This is what they were doing to us.
Crooks, boy.
This is what they were doing to us.
This is a Black History fact.
I can go on and on and on. But I'm just telling you, on the Brooklyn Bridge.
We need to know how, and again, this is why this type of discussion is needed, and it is pertinent to Black history, because, and I'm going to ask you in a second, Brother Herman, I know you have information that I want people to hear, why it is not only relevant to now, but why we should be more determined based off what happened to us then, to not allow what happened then through some of those things to affect us now. We have a question, and I have a question online that I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to ask about the history, and then I want to ask about pitfalls, even with agents, that we need to look out for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's ready. Okay, Leah has a question, and I'll repeat it after she asks. tax burden. So you're asking when you leave? Okay.
No.
So the question for those who are not with us in the house, the question was asked, when you do leave these large amounts to family members or legacy amounts, or they're able to cash out or cash in or whatever these amounts, now you tell us if it's living cashing out or the person died and the family cashes out. What is the tax situation or burden on that?
With whole life and term insurance, you do not pay tax on that
Amen.
at all. It's non-taxable.
And it does not go into probate.
Yes. A beneficiary is very important. Not only do I have my customers leave a beneficiary, but a contingent beneficiary
There
as
you go.
well, just in case if you and the beneficiary is together, or a situation if your beneficiary passed, your next of kin beneficiary kicks in. So you want to always leave a contingent because they could just go left.
And they have another thing in there that's called, it can be per stirpes,
Yes.
which if you had 1/5 to this child, 1/5 to that, you can do all of that with it. So it's these things that we actually need to know.
And somebody did put a comment up much earlier. You don't have to go back to it, London, but they had put up a comment about 20, 30 minutes ago and saying that make sure you have your designated beneficiaries and
Absolutely.
revisit that from time to time. Life situations do change. And so that's very, very important. We did have a question online, and then I'm going to ask that his history question and the pitfall question, and we'll wrap up. What debt comes out of life insurance or can be paid by life insurance, I guess is the question. And Rosalind, if you need to clarify that. Is she asking what types of debt can anything be garnished or taken from life insurance?
Life insurance cannot be garnished.
No, it can't. That's one of what they call, the federal government called it a non-forfeiture value. They have several non-forfeiture values to protect life insurance. And it wasn't for us. It was for some rich people. That is sold up. That's one of the cash cows in our country. It's well protected, believe me.
So no debt, no garnishment comes out of life insurance. Payments, can anything come out of, cash outs or anything when you do those loans, anything like that?
No, the only thing that I would like to add to it is because I see a lot of documents coming from Ohio Job and Family Services for those who have life insurance, and they want to know how much you actually have in cash value. So the government is calculating for those on government assistance.
As a part of your assets?
Yes, yes.
So
But-
cash value could be counted as an asset.
Yes, and
Okay.
that would be a determination on benefits.
That's good. That's good. That's good to know. So I want to ask, and again, because this is the Black History Month Empowerment Series, and Mr. Caldwell has been practicing since 1973. Is that correct? 72. 50 years in this business. And so he's seen a lot, and he's probably heard and learned a lot from those that even came before him. And this is why we want to really hone in on. Tell us a few things that we need. You already shared a few things. That Brooklyn Bridge story still got me out. And those penny policies and the $500 policy. Tell us some of the things about how life insurance was withheld from African Americans or differences in what was offered to African Americans over time.
Now, right now, believe it or not, up until 1967, or it was the early 70s, I think it was 67, people in Ohio, black people were not allowed to have the same premium as white people. Now, in 1974,
Now you said in Ohio now, not Alabama.
well, see, same difference.
But I mean, up north too.
Yeah, up north too.
Okay.
And you just weren't allowed to have it. And so, what's happened is some of the policies that our parents had on us, you see, they're being you're still paying the rates, the old segregated rates, and that's one of the reasons that it should make you mad. I've noticed that we as a people, we don't do anything till we get mad. Step on our shoes, or do something, we'll burn the city down. But we have to be made mad. And that's one of the things, if you knew what they've done to us over the years, especially here in the great state of Ohio. We would go to, I would submit policies at the Department of Insurance on Broad Street in Columbus. We should be able to take them in at one time. And I would watch them go over the policies. It's called redlining. You've heard of redlining. If my zip code was 4448 whatever, if it was 444 whatever, okay. You see, we have to understand what has happened to us and understand that it can be corrected with knowledge, with the right knowledge. And that's what myself and the young lady, we're gonna team up together. We talked about that and maybe give little seminars like this, because unless we do, our forefathers, when I was in South Carolina, I watched the oldest Baptist church in the
African Baptist
yes,
Church.
I went there,
Yeah.
and they told the story of this, how these people, our people, carried bricks in their aprons. The women carried the bricks in their aprons, and they built this church from 500 yards carrying them, and and they took their slaves. They were slaves, and they had 3 cents. Some of the people were paid. They saved enough money to build the church, and we can't save enough money to insure ourselves. This is crazy. And so that the history of it, I can go back. I can go on and on and on about the history of it. National Life. Some of us remember National Life, and you know what I mean, and Atlanta Life. And
explain that.
Okay, Atlanta Life. They were companies that were put in place because we couldn't get it anyplace else.
Wow.
North Carolina Mutual is that the young lady. She's in North Carolina. That was one of the first insurance companies that we started ourselves.
Wow.
But we never passed the knowledge on to our kids. I'm guilty of it. My generation, the old General Motors, $150,000 a year, I got it made, $100 tennis shoes and the $400 rims on the car. I did it all. But the thing to it is, here we are now, and they don't know. I have to keep coming back to that. I'm not putting anyone down, but it's our, the El Hajj Malik El Shabazz said, if you allow your oppressor to teach your kids their history, you're a fool. El Hajj Malik El Shabazz is Malcolm X.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I want to ask about group policies, or if groups of people have asked, like churches, or sometimes there are groups, they could be in the same lodge together. They could be the same part of an organization or family-wide policies. Do those sort of exist for larger groups that would like to, I don't know, invest, put in? There are parishes and churches out there that have insured their members, and then it's designated. What do you see out there, and what do you think about how that is done sometimes?
Well, as far as me and my agency, I can only set up a group life insurance for an already made business, a nonprofit organization, and it actually works well. It's not expensive at all. If you have any pre-existing health
Hold your mic up so they can hear you at home.
You know what? I think my voice loud enough.
Can't hear you.
So if you have any pre-existing health conditions, that's a great way for you to get a good policy, and quite a bit as well.
Thank you. Mr. Caldwell? Group?
Yeah. Again, I have to add this. I'm not going to be the devil's advocate, but I have to add this to you. That's perfect, and she's right in what she said. But think of who you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Now, if we decide to leave that group and go, what do we have? All right. And we're known to go from place to place to place to place. I've been trying to say it. She's more knowledgeable than me. Actually, she's got it going on up there. I'm from the old school, but I'll tell you, my thing is that I want to sit down, I want to consult with people and talk to them about that, because there are ins and outs to that.
Yes.
Perfect. But some of our folk will leave. It's like that.
I'm
sick of that pastor.
I know it. I'm sick of it too.
And then they're gone. But then when they go, they don't have anything.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I'm trying to put it in to a point where we have. That's fine if you could do that. But I want to see personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility is what I'm after. We've skated so long with this person will do this person do personal responsibility. Pay the $5 for a month for your child.
Yes.
Or $10. Do that.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility. And then, if the church would allow to do that, that's fine. But when you leave or you go somewhere, make sure you have something, because we'll do it every time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And they asked if Marquita could repeat her last statement because the sound was low. But for those of you watching, she did bring the mic up and repeat herself. And basically, go ahead and finish that.
Well, I just basically said within my agency, I can create group life insurance policies, but it's only for businesses. So if you have a corporation, an LLC, if you have a nonprofit organization, I can set that up, and it is a great way for you to, if you have any pre-existing health conditions, for you to get a life insurance policy.
Thank you. One more question in the back. We have a question in the back. Go ahead. So the question for those at home that was asked in the House is, if somebody is chronically ill or has a lot of health issues already, of course we know how they do the testing and the physicals, what is the best option for them to pursue if they are already in that position and they're not insured?
Well, I would suggest what we call a guaranteed issue, where they don't have to answer any questions, no health questions or anything like that. It can be had. The only difference is if a person passes away within the 2-year period, they would get 100% plus 10, 110% of the policy, of their premium paid. I'm
so
sorry.
The premium they paid, not the policy.
Not the
amount.
policy.
Gotcha.
And but after 2 years, then the policy is just as good as anyone else's. And so the person usually they're 40 years old, 35. Some companies, depending on what company you get, I represent a few, and you can actually have that for an individual. I've done a lot of those. It doesn't matter, but anyone can be insured now. Anyone. It's called a guaranteed issue. You also want to look at a simplified issue before you get to the guaranteed issue. Simplified issue means that they'll maybe ask you 3 or 4 questions. No physical, but just 3 or 4 questions. And if you pass those 3 or 4 questions, you can get immediate coverage. But if you don't, if those questions can't be answered positively, then they'll switch you automatically to a guaranteed issue, and you'll be covered. It's like anybody else after 2 years. The only thing is you can commit suicide after first 2 years. You can't.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, you cannot commit suicide at all.
So don't get any ideas. But first 2 years, you can't do that.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there. As far as a life insurance policy, I don't care what company it is. I don't care what promises they make you. Within that 2-year period, every company will exercise their right for a 2-year contestability. So, and I've witnessed it with COVID. I've witnessed it with deaths. Insurance companies will go back on the application to see if any question was answered incorrectly. It could be as simple as, are you a smoker? If no is checked out, that's considered a lie. So they will decline your policy. They will go back in your medical reports. When you apply for a life insurance policy, they already pull your medical records up front. So a lot of times they already know. So I like to share with my clients, if you don't tell anyone else the truth, I need you to tell me the truth, because I need to be able to know how to help you. So,
and don't embellish when you're being asked the questions. It says, to the best of your knowledge is what you're answering to. Now, this has actually happened too. Now, we know we've been known to eat butter beans, ham hocks, and things like that. Well, here we are. You got a little gas. And the question says, have you ever had chest pain? Well, yeah, I had chest pain. You see what I mean? Yeah. You have to the best of your knowledge. See, and that's why you need an agent. Yeah. We're not allowed to coach you, but wait a minute, that's the greens you ate, man.
Let go, I will actually probe. I will probe and ask you more about it.
Sure, but that's what I mean. When you answer these questions, it's to the best of your ability. Don't lie.
That is excellent.
It's the best of your ability, because there are all types of things that you're not a physician. You're not competent to answer. And so this is why we need to sit down. I'll tell you what, you can't ask JJ that, can you?
You can't ask JJ these questions. You beating up on JJ. Boy, we love you, JJ. We just don't like your commercial. Somebody gonna tag him. He gonna cuss me out. He gonna call me and cuss me out. We live, Brother Caldwell. We didn't heard all your stories. But I love it. I want to say this because we all know that there are pitfalls And everybody is not about the right thing, including in our community. Now, let's be honest. We can talk about what the white man has done or we were treated like this, but we have some within our own community. We will not say names, Mr. Caldwell, online, live,
I understood.
on our platform. But just what behaviors or statements do you sometimes hear people say, agents say, or try to sell people on that may be erroneous or misleading or embellished or not going to work out for someone later on in the end? And I'm going to ask Sister Karen to come in if she's still there, and they can kind of take the floor, Lundy. And I want you guys to all, starting with Mr. Caldwell, then Karen, and then Marquita, give us some things to watch out for.
There's a story in the book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. In the book, there are three primary characters: Simon Legree, the slave owner, Uncle Tom, and Sambo. When the slave master told Uncle Tom was a good man. We shouldn't disparage him. But when the slave master told Uncle Tom to beat the slaves to make them pick more cotton and do more, Uncle Tom said no. He handed the whip to the Sambo. And Sambo beat Uncle Tom to death. Now, let's think of what I'm talking about. You have some of our people, you give him that whip, and it could be an insurance contract, will beat you to death because he's a Sambo. So just when you see it, call it out, say it just like it is. He knows he's a Sambo. You know,
We are live on the Second Baptist Church Facebook page. And now I'm not the only one that talks crazy in this church. Thank you.
But that's just it. You know, you can have a dog. You can have a dog, and you want him to meow. You say sing. The dog says woof. Sing woof. Well, who's the fool?
That's it.
You know, the dog. He's a dog. What I'm trying to say in so many words, there are people in our community that will harm us. They will, and I know you've seen it, and I have too. And I've learned to identify them by that little story that I just gave. They are Sambos. Do not call anybody Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was a religious man, a good man. He did what he could to help his people. But that Sambo.
Don't buy Sambo's insurance.
That's right. And here's the thing. You can tell. Here, a little sermon here.
Preach it.
Everything that God made, he gave a identifying point to. You can see a tree. You can see a leaf. You can see the grass. Everything he made identifying point. And he made a Sambo, too, if you're paying attention. You can tell just who he is. Right. I get upset about that because it's not our people's fault. We have to weed people out like that.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
Sorry,
we got to weed it out. Miss Karen, could you tell us some of the pitfalls or perhaps misrepresentations that might come from an insurance agent that consumers should watch out for?
Yes, because there's different types of insurance. Like I represent 50 different insurance companies, but there's two that I really stick with. Well, one mainly, and that's because it costs the client less. And my upline always tells me, you're not making no money. You're not, and my words are, I'm doing this because this is what God put in me. I'm here to help. It's not all about, God gonna take care of me anyway. If I take care of my people, he gonna take care of me. And one other thing, I want everyone to know, watch when you go to the doctor. They always say that they don't do physicals on an insurance policy, but they're gonna do an MIB report. And that's any prescription you've been written for the last 2 years. People say, well, he wrote it, I didn't take it. Well, sweetheart, it's on your record that's the prescription you received, and they're going to count that against you. So watch what you allow doctors to write you. If you know just to go in there and get what you want, you know you don't have high blood pressure, you know you're not taking this, quit letting him write that prescription every time you go in his office. Because when you get your life insurance, there it is. Oh, you got high blood pressure. There's the price going up. Watch everything you do. It's so many little loopholes that if we're not educated on, we get bamboozled with.
Yes, ma'am. It's the MIB, Medical Information Bureau.
Wow.
Yes.
Marquita, would you add on to any pitfalls or misrepresentations that might come from an agent or a company?
The Sambos from the outbound callers. And I bring that up because my dad was a victim. My dad have the most knowledgeable, one of the, I am one of the most knowledgeable agents out here. My dad loves to talk. So if someone calls him telling him, you know what, I have life insurance that's $10 a month. I'm like, Dad, you're 64 years old. It's not possible. My dad, without calling me, canceled his life insurance policy because of a cold caller that cared nothing about him. They have a My dad actually purchased a policy. It was a disability policy. So he canceled his life insurance for a disability policy. So those cold callers drive me crazy. And they take advantage of a lot of senior citizens who are lonely out there. So I just recommend that you guys talk to your parents, talk to your loved ones about life insurance. It's a hard conversation to have. But I mean, I'm not gonna veer off because I can't.
That's okay.
But that the cold callers, be very mindful because they don't represent us well.
They will try to sell you disability insurance to replace your life insurance, and your car warranty has expired. We had a question online that I didn't miss. London, if you want to scroll up, it was Tim's, and his question was, what strategies would you suggest to convince young people who stop paying for their life insurance after losing a job to continue paying? Or if they have some break, or maybe a financial situation changes, or is there a way to keep up? I know some employment, it's tied to the employment, but do you have any strategies for if people run into that situation where there's an interruption? I guess is the best way for me to say it. Or are you pretty much cut off and you need to start again?
You need to start again.
You need to start again.
Just no way to fudge that. To sit down, again, we talk about consulting. This is something that we haven't done with our young people. When a person's in that situation, you can come in, or I can come to them. We can sit down, and you can explain to them the situation that he or she is in. This is what you need to do. This is what it will cost you. This is how it's going to benefit you. You have to do that with them, but you can't talk at them. You have to talk with them, and that's where we've been overlooking.
One subject we mentioned that we missed, and we're winding down here, so if you have a question, type it, and I'll have them email you later, is storing or keeping track of your policies. Now, in the old days, there was physical policy papers somewhere. I know what it's like to have an unexpected death, or an older person where you're not sure where they keep all their things, or maybe haven't told everybody. And now in this world where I'm in, it's online. I've had to search out websites, and I got to submit this, that, and the other, or create a login and all this kind of stuff. What would you suggest for those older policies, if you think family members might have them, or where they should store them for safekeeping or safe deposit boxes, whatever? And for the new school, that maybe Marquita, you could definitely pop in here, how do we deal with some of these newer ones where we're kind of in the digital world, online banking and all of that? Could you talk a little bit about both sides?
First off, do not put your policies in a safe deposit box. I have a booklet here I'll send to anybody that wants one. The address is on it and everything, where you can actually tell your loved ones where your papers are. It says like your marital status. It has everything in it that you would need, people to contact, social media platforms, the whole deal. You fill this out and you put it in a safe place, and you let someone know where it is, because we've had people that have put their policies in safe deposit box, and because they died, they couldn't. The other beneficiary could not get into that box. The bank, they didn't have the right to do it.
Wow. So if you put it in a safe deposit box, your beneficiaries likely will not be able to access it.
In some cases. Cases. If they're not on the particular
paperwork and approved to do it. Okay, understood. Anything else you would add to that about storage, even in the online world or the paper world?
So you can have a copy on your computer. Hopefully you let someone know you're logged into your computer. Have a safe place in your home. Everyone should talk to their beneficiary, their loved ones, and let them know where they keep their file with their important documents, what to do when I pass away, because we're all going to pass away. So have that conversation. Older people like to keep stuff in their Bible. I like to keep things in my file. As far as my clients, I keep a file of all of their life insurance policies, all of their auto, all of their home insurance. I keep it in a file at my office. As far as my clients, all they have to do is tell their loved ones to call Marquita. She knows exactly what to do.
Wow. Good. Before we close, somebody asked, can you get insurance if you had a transplant?
Yes.
You can have insurance if you had a
Guaranteed
transplant.
issue. It's a guaranteed
It'll likely
issue.
be a guaranteed issue.
Yes.
Okay. I hope that answers your question. You can get life insurance under certain circumstances, or if it'll be guaranteed style issue. So, first of all, we're going to close here. Any more questions in the house? I think we've had so much information, we'd have to go home and think about some. But I first want to thank our guests. I want to thank Mr. Caldwell. I want to thank Sister Lyles for sharing this incredible information. You are one of the most knowledgeable people. And Mr. Caldwell, you are one of the most knowledgeable people about life insurance. And Miss Karen, you are a wonderful dynamic, and you brought up so many points as you were listening, and I appreciate you so very much. So let's give our panelists a great big hand for sharing this knowledge. Knowledge is power. And what I'm going to ask you all at home to do, and those of you who are here, because most of you are on Facebook and YouTube and all that too, this video will be uploaded to YouTube this afternoon. We're live on Facebook. We upload afterward on YouTube. Whatever platform, like it, share it, send it to somebody, and make sure that we spread knowledge in our community. Now, my father always had a saying when he would preach, once you hear it, you're responsible for it. Once you know it, we can't keep pleading ignorance once you're getting this information. And we're not going to get it all in one day or one session, but we can continue to explore, reach out to these persons. Lundy, can you hand me that folder right there, or a piece of paper, or one of the papers out of that folder? We need to push every individual that possibly can to make sure that they check that they have life insurance, and double check, thank you, double check their policies. Mr. Caldwell didn't mention this, but he kind of alluded to it. There are policies you might have and had that were 10, 20, and 30 years that are coming due, and you need to do something with them, convert them, or whatever, and you need to go back on that box and check the dates on those for the sake of yourself and your family, and make sure that you have that handled so that those funds are not lost. And quite frankly, there are people who don't mind you losing that wealth and that money and your family, because you will have paid all of that and not gotten anything out of it. So thank you so much to Brother Caldwell, Sister Lyles, Sister Jackson, for being wonderful panelists, knowledgeable panelists. And I'm going to commit right now, you know I'll follow through, that we're going to do another session, because we need to unpack wills, probate, estates, all of those things, final wishes, even DNRs and all of those things. If you don't know what that is, do not resuscitate. What does mama want done to her? How does she want to be handled if she's no longer functional? Those are important things. And we've done things. I've done a podcast with one of our funeral directors to talk about some of the realities of those things as well. Instead of going off of ignorance or just going off the internet, get the knowledge from the people who know, get the understanding, and then empower ourselves with it. We are indebted. People who are a little younger, we know too much now to keep doing things out of ignorance. Right. We know too much now. And we might have to go on we can't do it in church. Everybody don't come to church. We have to go a bar tour or something, and I'll order lemonade. Say, put that Hennessy down and buy some life insurance. Because, I can shut down a club. Pastor Todd walk in, I'll just shut the whole joint down. Take over the DJ. Yes. I've been warning them I was going to show up. I've been warning them. You're going to look up at Madden's. I'm going to be right there.
Pastor Todd, I don't go in Madden's.
If you listen, I'm sorry.
I ain't going in there.
If you a Second Baptist member, go home. No, but this is important information. And and I'm actually being serious. We talked about voting and everything else. Sometimes you got to take the information where it's needed. And I'm honest enough to know that everybody don't come to church. And everyone don't listen to a preacher. So if we have to take it off-site to a neutral, secular spot, we'll do it so that we can get it in front of people who need it. So for all of you watching, thank you so much for joining us, for being with us, and for telling the truth about what we need to hear. If there's nothing else, we want to thank everyone for coming. Lundy, you can take us out, and you all stay tuned. Wait, before you go off, stay tuned. Next week, we are having Tim Callion, longtime union and trades worker, and we are having 2 hiring managers, plant managers from Altium Battery Cells, the battery plant, and they are going to be ramping up hiring alongside a lot of others. And I've said it in the pulpit, and I'll say it now. There is new industry coming to this area. The question is whether we as black people will be a part of it. There is no doubt that there are plans for new industry to come to this area. The question is, will we position ourselves to be a part of it? And we need to prepare those who may be transitioning their jobs from dying industries and those who are coming into the job market from high school and college and other places to be prepped and prepared. And manufacturing isn't the only area. It could be healthcare, technology, finance, education, so many areas that we want to prepare our young people or others who might be not so young but need to get into other areas to take on these jobs, because again, that is wealth and legacy for our community if they can get these quality jobs to raise their families. So join us next week at 2 o'clock. Tell somebody to come here to Second Baptist or watch online, and we will be here to inform you and empower you once again. God bless you. Okay, London, now you can take us out. And thank you again, Lundy. Love you, baby. Y'all take care.